Education of domestic violence is very important to us as individuals as well as our country. Women ages 15 to 44 are more likely to be injured or die as a result of domestic violence, more than traffic, cancer, malaria, and even the effects of war combined. The mindset of the victims are very important. Why they stay, why they choose not to leave, their personal stories, and new laws that are being changed yearly to combat these offenses. I'm Detective Charlene Ezell with the City of Anderson Police Department. I have gone to college for issues of law enforcement, domestic violence included. I've spent 3 months training at the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy for law enforcement, which included domestic violence training. I've been to numerous trainings around the country trying to learn how to combat these issues, and I've also made many arrests for domestic violence, gone to court, prosecuted the lower levels, and assisted the solicitor's office here in our local agency to put these offenders away. I've also worked with the victims on a one-on-one level, helping them understand the mindset that they have and how to change that, as well as going with them to help them fill out order of protections or restraining orders or whatever they need. There are various statistics on criminal domestic violence. The mindset, like I said earlier, of the victim is very crucial. The reasons why they stay. More victims are starting to speak out, and that actually helps our laws change over time to combat these issues. 1 in 3 women in the world will be beaten at some point in a domestic situation. Each year, 10 million children will witness domestic violence in their home from their parents or their caregivers. Each year, there will be 1 in 5 teenage domestic violence relationships, whether it be the offender actually harms physically the teenager, threatens to harm himself, or threatens violence. The mindset, like I said, is very confusing for the victim because the offender shows confusing signals. They can beat the victim one day and come back with flowers and candy and apologetic the very next day. This is very confusing for the victim, and they don't understand. Oftentimes they say when times are really bad, they're at their worst, but there are days when things are very great and they actually have love and affection from this offender. For the victims, this is a learned behavior patterns that they've picked up from watching their mothers go through it or watching their caregivers go through it, grandparents. They see this, they view this as almost normal because that's the way that they were raised. The victims many times are very weak, and the offender likes to play on that. After domestic violence goes for so long, a lot of times the victims seem to shut down mentally, emotionally. They don't feel like they have a way out. Depression could set in, and various other issues could be the reason why they don't leave. The offender it's very important for them to have control over the victim. They instill fear in the victim. A lot of the victims have very low self-esteem, so that they don't feel that they can leave. Money is another issue why they would stay. If they don't have a job, a vehicle, or any access to any agencies or help, they feel like they're hopeless in their situation. They fear the offender will harm their children. Many times the offender will tell the victim and make threats against the children, and no mother would want that. I was able to speak to a domestic violence survivor. She is my partner at the Anderson City Police Department here in South Carolina. She was raised in a home, very, very violent home, where she would actually get between her parents to try to stop the violence. Her mother would never leave. She would never leave this man. They had 5 children together, my partner being one of those. Her father would regularly beat and injure and just bloody her mother up, and the children would take care of her afterwards. He often pulled a gun on her, and my partner would actually get between them, and the gun would be pointed at her at that point as a child. When she turned 18, she physically got her mother into a car after packing her bags, and they left in a vehicle. They didn't know where they were going. They didn't have any money. They ended up in a women's shelter 2 states away, and that's how they were able to escape, and they never went back. Laws are changing. In 1994, the Congress passed a Domestic Violence Against Women Act. It lacked many of the issues safety-wise that the victims needed, but the laws are starting to change and have changed since 1994. A lot of the gun laws have gotten stricter. Laws for victims' rights, the victims have a lot more rights now than they ever have. There's also national help for the victims now on a national level, and assistance for the victims. Like I said before, the domestic violence education is very, very important. It's something that we all will come in contact with at some point in our lives, and it needs to be spread and made aware of. Thank you.